Hi Alexis, how you doing? Okay, I've got the front up. Little bit of an issue here. This is an illustrative solution here, so this is not typographic. Now remember, all communication and all message making must be done through typography, not illustration. So standalone illustrations are not permitted. Now, I think the initial idea was to use visual substitution and use the dove as the A in Mandela, but the problem there is it didn't really resemble an A. So by moving it over here into this configuration here, you've removed, it worked as visual substitution for the A because that's a typographic solution. However, placing the dove separate from typography indicates that that is a illustrative solution and not a typographic solution. Remember, we're after typographic solutions only here. Um, Other than that, I think that the typography looks good. Good alignment here. That's nice tracking. I'm sorry, nice leading. Though there's a couple of areas I think that can still be worked in to your, I'm sorry, I'm talking about kerning. Right there, that space right there could be reduced just a little bit. I think other than that, you're looking pretty darn good. Mandela, it looks like it's kerned just about perfectly, so good job there. The real issue I see with the front of the poster is that standalone illustration. Also, there's no reason to include these underlines because underlines are for what? They're for emphasis, but you don't need emphasis on this page because there's nothing really to emphasize. You've got beautiful hierarchy without the need to emphasize the title any further than it already is. Therefore, I don't recommend the underlines. Okay, let's go ahead and close that and we'll jump over to the back of the poster, which oh, there it is right there. Okay, so the back of the poster, and again, I'm just going to do my thing here, get this into the window. The reason I do this, by the way, just so you know, is because I don't want to open up that video window any larger than it is, because otherwise it takes a really long time for videos to render. Okay, I think it's visually, it looks good. I mean, I think it looks good. I can see how you've taken the dove and that line. So that line, again, is borrowed from an area of the front of the poster that isn't necessarily doing the poster any justice. Okay, so again, I recommend that you don't need to underline in the front. If you want to, that's fine. You don't need to, though. It's not required. It's not needed in. It's almost typographic redundancy to underline an area that is already emphasized. Okay, if that makes sense. So. If you want to keep the underline, though, it's certainly fine. And I can see why you would by assembling the timeline based on that particular graphic from the front. Okay, you don't want to stroke your letter forms. I think it actually changes the shapes of the letter forms. I do not recommend stroking letter forms in typography. As far as your body copy goes, that's a nice drop cap. Good job there. Your rags need to be adjusted, and that's covered in videos in the course announcements. You'll definitely want to get in here and adjust your rags. The other thing I'm looking for is use of old style numerals or scaling down your numerals. Again, that's covered in the course announcements video tutorials. That TH right there should be superscript. Watch your use of italics. There's some areas here that could be italicized. Let me see, again, old style or reduction. Well, small caps as opposed to all caps. And I don't see any use of, let me see, I don't see any number spans, but don't forget I'll also be looking for correct use of M dash, N dash, and hyphen. Let me just show you real quickly what I'll be looking for. In the actual, these are what I'm going to be looking for. Here we are. This is just some of the things I'm going to be looking for. Adjusted rags, use of small caps as opposed to all caps, use of old style numerals or reduced scale in presentation of numerals if your old style numerals aren't available through the open type menu, correct use of dash, M dash, and N dash, correct use of italics, optimal character count, superscript, hanging punctuation, and orphans and widows. In addition to the 18 rules of typography that we went through during our week 4 discussion. I recommend that you go through that. Um, I also recommend that you go through all of the video tutorials. Okay, so the other thing I see is we're looking pretty good in the timeline. Again, watch all your superscript, your old style numbers, everything here is applicable. Other than that, the timeline looks pretty good. Oh, there's a number span right there. That little dash between those two numbers needs to be an N dash, N as in Nancy. Let me see. The typographic color is really, really light. The reason so is that you're using a typeface that's got a very, very minimal stroke width, and the leading is really wide, so the space between lines is pretty wide. That in conjunction with the thin stroke typeface is creating a very light typographic color. I think we can create a little bit more density there by just reducing the leading a little bit. Also try to use negative space as a design element as opposed to leftover space. I don't see any use of negative space with the exception of this right here, which looks great, by the way. But you want to give intervals of space and rest in any composition. So therefore, I recommend trying to use areas of rest and inserting negative space in your composition in order to enhance the negative space associated with this composition. Okay, so other than that, I mean, those aren't the only recommendations I have. I shouldn't say the only because I've actually thrown a lot at you. So at this point, I'd like to see those uh, addressed, everything addressed in your final submission. If you have any questions at all, if you want me to look at anything between now and then, please just have at it. And of course, it's really super important to get with me if you have any questions or if I can provide any further clarification. Okay, great. Thank you very much.